All right, so welcome back to Chat Communications Happenings and Trends. So in this segment, we just wanted to update you on some previous news stories that we had covered. So first, we're going to update on what will become of DACA. So once again, the fate of DACA was put on hold last Wednesday night. So we aren't actually much closer to figuring that one out. March 5th was the date in which Trump set last year for DACA to officially end. That date has actually come and gone, and the attempts to add measures to the $1.3 trillion omnibus spending bill, which included $1.6 billion to go towards Trump's $25 billion wall, failed. So Trump threatened online to actually veto the bill, and once again to try to put the shame of him ending the DACA program on the Democrats. So in a tweet, he said, I am considering a veto of the omnibus spending bill based on the fact that the 800,000 plus DACA recipients have been totally abandoned by the Democrats, not even mentioned in bill. And the border wall, which is desperately needed for our national defense, is not fully funded. Since the Supreme Court decided not to take Trump's appeal, the federal judges ordered from January stand, and the DACA renewals will stand for now. So basically what he's done is ended the DACA program and then blamed it on the Democrats and threatened to veto the bill, which I believe he did not do, right? He didn't veto the bill. He did sign it. But again, he's not wrong in saying that the Democrats did not fight for DACA, because they didn't. They failed once again, which I don't think anybody's surprised by this. I'm certainly not, having kind of watched this play out through the last year. And it's just pathetic that this is the Democratic Party who said that their hard stance or their hard line was at DACA, and that they would fight for these kids and these young adults who were brought into the country of no fault of their own by their parents. It's pathetic. So no, both parties are to blame. He's the one that ended the program, and the Democrats are the ones that aren't fighting for the program. It's no surprise that the Republicans aren't fighting for the program, because they never liked it in the first place. All right, so the next one that we covered was about the Yemen War Resolution. So this was a bipartisan bill that Senator Sanders, Republican Mike Lee of Utah, and Democrat Chris Murphy put forth in the Senate to give power to declare war back into the hands of Congress, or stop our assistance to Saudi Arabia's involvement in the Yemen civil war. Sadly, the bill was tabled and lost with 55 to 44 votes. So this loss was contributed by 10 Democratic senators. So we're going to list those for you. It was Coons of Delaware, Cortez Masato of Nevada, Donnelly of Indiana, Heitkamp of North Dakota, and newly appointed Jones of Alabama, Manchin of West Virginia, Menendez of New Jersey, Nelson of Florida, and Reed and Whitehouse, both of Rhode Island, voted with the majority of the Republicans to table the bill. So a method used to make short order bills, which the Senate later finds pesky, and which I describe here. So later, during the press conference, Sanders and Lee were both asked why they were limiting this resolution to just Yemen, mentioning Afghanistan and Syria, to which Sanders answered, it's not just Yemen, it's not just Syria, it's not just Afghanistan. What it is the fundamental principle of what entity of government decides whether or not we go to war. He went on to explain the steps as follows. They introduced the bill. The Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs has about 10 days to discharge it. If they do not discharge, one of the senators will go onto the floor and ask for its discharge. Then they will begin a debate. They'll mention that there is a chance that McConnell could table the bill, which is a tactic used to quickly get rid of questions and means to go straight to a vote without a debate. So again, no surprise that these particular senators voted to table the bill. it's just interesting to me that they go, we're going to fight Trump, we're going to fight the terrible policies, we're going to make sure that he doesn't have as much control over, I guess, declaring war or anything, any type of resistance issues, yet they vote along, these particular senators vote alongside the Republican Party, 85% or higher of the time. In fact, there's no bill or resolution or anything that particularly Doug Jones has not voted or done along with the Republican Party, whether it was to table a bill or to vote for a bill. That Doug Jones hasn't kind of gone along with the Republican Party. Is he a Democrat? I mean, he's the conservative Democrat, but I would argue that if you're a conservative Democrat, you're not a Democrat. But that's just me in my argument. I think it's pathetic, and I think that these guys do not deserve their office. This is not why they were voted here. The fact that people were arguing when Doug Jones won that Black women was the one that put him into office. And Black women are overwhelmingly progressive in nature. They would not vote alongside him. This is not what they voted for. They voted for progressive policies. They voted for liberalism. They voted for, to go forward and to try to stop or to obstruct, I guess, the Republican Party. But he has not done any of that. I just don't understand. I mean, this is why he barely won, though. I mean, he barely won against a alleged pedophile. Barely. And I mean, that's just how pathetic he is as a politician. And I really believe that progressive politics could win in the South. Having lived here my entire life, I see that type of mentality. I know the hatred and contempt people have here for standard politicians, and the country leans left. So if you do a progressive politician that is anti-establishment, but is pro, social programs, pro actually helping people, that would win in the South. It could easily win in the South. That's just my observations. So the FCC and its newly appointed head, Ajit Pai, in December voted 3-2 to roll back rules that govern net neutrality. So in our segment, we talked a little bit about Senator Markey's resolution of disapproval under the Congressional Review Act and explained what exactly net neutrality is. So let me describe kind of what net neutrality is and actually tell you why it's actually important. So simply, it's a principle that internet service providers or ISPs, such as Comcast, Verizon, and AT&T, give access to all the content, no matter the source, without blocking particular sites or products or providing preferential treatment to sites. So one example that I can think of is that AT&T owns DirecTV. And so they have an internet streaming service that has videos and things like that. So if they, under the new law or lack thereof, they can now assure that their customers either don't have access to streaming services like Netflix or Hulu and have to buy in to their streaming service, which I guess would be offered through DirecTV, or they can slow down sites such as Netflix and Hulu, making it nearly impossible to stream. So they have access to the content, but it's not reliable. They can't stream it because it's too slow. And so then they'll say, well, we have our own streaming service. If you want to pay in to this, you can buy it through us directly. And then they can, raise their prices in that regard. So what net neutrality also does, it gives protections to end users. So in our example, it would have protected them so that they could have all the choices of every streaming service online without having to pay additional costs or additional fee. And it also wouldn't have directed traffic to other sites or blocked them out completely. So in a way that this affects smaller businesses is that they aren't forced to pay extra to help drive traffic to their websites in order to boost sales. So now a number of companies and interest groups have formed the Internet Association and will be taking the fight to court in a brief filed in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And they state, today's consumers rely heavily on both wired and wireless broadband subscriptions and expect to be able to access the same content and services no matter how they connect. Even with the disclosures required by the order, it may not be apparent to consumers that broadband providers slow or degrade access to certain services. Consumers may be understandably frustrated when their video, gaming, or other service provider cannot solve the problem. So this fight is far from over, and we will actually keep you updated as we obtain more information as how this kind of moves along in the court systems. All right, so moving right along, we had a pretty popular segment concerning America's harvest spots. So this was the first and most watched segment, well before Beth Lynch's interview. And there isn't much of an update, but we found more information on just how the proposed 2019 cuts will be devastating, not just to the program, but to businesses as well. So the proposed cut in spending to SNAP is $17 billion, and immediately followed by a $213.5 billion cut over the next 10 years. That is huge. So currently SNAP is being used at not only grocery stores, but corner stores and farmers markets as well. So there are farmers markets actually allowing recipients to double the dollar amount of their SNAP to help their families even more. So not only are we taking away a person's right to choose fresh fruits and vegetables instead of, I guess, boxed and processed food for their families, but we will also be taking away businesses from these establishments like farmers markets that actually do accept SNAP and possibly even give families extra food, basically, I guess, through a bartering process or even for free, to help double their deals that they would normally get from a standard grocery store. And I know that to be true because I can go to farmers markets and actually, take some change. And I've gone and gotten an apple for 5 cents because that was all I had left. And then the person was like, okay, just give me what you got. And I had 5 cents and I ate my apple right there. And so it just depends on the person, of course, and the vendor that you get, but you can get, your money can go further in these farmers markets than they would in a traditional grocery store. And the fact that these places do accept SNAP mean that you can stretch your dollar even more there. And it would actually be saving the government money if you think about it. And since we just went over this fact that the government actually makes their own currency, it's not as if they can't afford this program. They don't owe anybody money here. It's ridiculous. And this is one thing that I am really upset about because it's not about the spending. It's about really hurting and punishing and being punitive towards the poor. That's all.